All right. My friends, I owe you a live stream that it happened, but it didn't happen. Whatever, the internet here got completely messed up yesterday for the Southern Idaho Preparedness net. So I figured I'm going to give you, because there are guys who really enjoy watching the replay. Sorry, I'm not going to do it again. And the audio was so messed up that, people said it was just unintelligible, even on the live. So if you were only watching it on the live and you weren't on WiresX or YSF yesterday, you missed it. So I figured, you know what? I owe you at least a video. I'm gonna go over all of the information that we talked about, so at least you can get the information. This isn't going to be a glamorous video. I'm kind of trying to recreate the entire experience of the live net just for you on YouTube and Rumble. So anyway, I currently have 4 nodes, the same 4 nodes that are normally on, and because we're not live, those 4 nodes don't need to be up there. I'm going to switch it off. And I'll turn the phone off. Anyway, a few loose ends that I wanted to, that I did actually talk about yesterday after the net. We have moved over, instead of me running the live stream for a half hour, 45 minutes, maybe even an hour in some cases after the net, we've moved over to a brand new Discord server, and I will actually put the Discord server address, I'll put the invite into the description, so that'll be in the description below. Anyway, yesterday we were talking about natural disasters, and I kind of wanted to make SITREPs, situation reports, news, and I've decided I have for such a long time wanted there to be news and information coming from different hams in different parts of the country, to be able to tune in on HF. I've always figured to be able to get that information, real information, what's going on, not colored by the media, left or right, but what's actually going on different parts of the country. It's kind of become apparent that nobody's doing anything like that. Nobody is talking about it in a net. Nobody's talking about it in a QSO on ham radio. So I figured I'm going to do it. I'm going to start the ball rolling, because that is something that I think is going to be important moving forward, especially if bad stuff happens. If our regular news and information gets knocked offline for some reason, it's going to fall to us to inform and educate our fellow hams. So with that, my first sit rep that was given out on the on ham radio yesterday. This is regarding the Texas wildfires as of March 1st, 2024. This is now the largest wildfire in the state's history. Little over 1 million acres burned. The incident is called the Smokehouse Creek Fire. As of yesterday, it was at 3% containment. There was 2 confirmed casualties. an 83-year-old female who died in her home. Don't know any other circumstances. A 40-year-old female who, for some reason, got out of her truck and was overcome by fire. At least 12 fires up in the North Panhandle are burning at this time. Conditions are ripe for more fires this weekend, with winds forecast at 20 to 35 miles an hour. There has been 2 firefighters from Papa, Texas, that were injured while fighting fires on Monday. According to Governor Abbott, there's been at least 500 structures that have been destroyed by fire and thousands of evacuations. So I wanted to also talk about some lessons learned from history. You guys might remember back in 2018, there was a huge fire in Northern California that burned a very small rural town called Paradise, California. The telephone, cell service, and internet were lost very early and prior to any evacuations of the town of Paradise. The morning that the town caught on fire and burned almost the entire town down to the ground, the fire jumped fire lines so quickly that fire crews were not even able to alert dispatch and given enough time to do reverse 911 calls or do anything like that. Luckily, this wasn't the first fire and fire preparedness that those residents of that town had experienced. They had an unofficial, it was called a PACE plan. And that PACE plan is pretty much citywide. The guy that I had talked to that lived in Paradise said that probably 90% of the town's population was part of a citywide or town-wide MCOM effort. And they had actually drilled many times and on a regular basis for this exact scenario. So here's how their PACE plan lined up. Their primary, the P in PACE, was a combination of cell service, where available, and two-way radio. There was a significant portion of that area that isn't covered by landline telephone service or cell service. GMRS and ham radio were already primary communication methods in a lot of the area of Paradise. So the alternate, the A in the PACE plan, that was a two-way radio. It was a phone tree of sorts. There were block leaders and ham radio operators who would receive intel from other sources, other ham radio, internet, cell service, and GMRS. They would then pass that information on to the people in their little branch via ham radio and GMRS. When the smoke from the campfire started billowing in the sky, most everyone turned on their two-way radios and were monitoring constantly. So almost everybody in town at least had a GMRS radio, and a lot of them had ham radios. So they were in constant communication, even when the cell towers were destroyed by the fire and the cell service just completely dropped out. The contingency plan, the C in PACE, included physical runners, people who would drive to houses and alert people who didn't respond to their radio calls. And the emergency plan ended up being fellow residents and law enforcement making physical checks of non-responsive residents to get them evacuated, or at least give them the option to get evacuated. I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe that this is still their PACE plan today. I can't take credit for the PACE plan acronym. I learned about this from AmCon, which I became a member of about a month ago. So, keeping with my theme of sit reps and bringing the news to ham radio, additional sit reps that I talked about on the net yesterday, a winter storm in the California Sierra Nevada is currently pummeling Northern California. They're expecting 10 to 15 feet of snow to be dumped in the Reno-Tahoe corridor. Yosemite is closed, and thousands in California are out of power for all kinds of reasons. Journalist Steve Baker of the Blaze Media covered the January 6th protests or riots or whatever you want to call them. It's not an insurrection. Nobody was armed, and nobody did violence upon anybody in the government, and they never tried to take over the government. So it wasn't an insurrection. Nobody has been charged with insurrection. Anyway, this guy, Steve Baker, was a credentialed member of the press. About 2 years ago, the FBI kept saying, oh, we're going to arrest you, because he worked for conservative media. Anyway, on Thursday, he turned himself in to the FBI and Department of Justice. He was promptly arrested by FBI agents, done the perp walk. They did the perp walk with him, just, to show everybody how tough on crime they are. Charged him with, I guess, a couple of misdemeanors, and I don't even know what those misdemeanors are. He didn't know what those misdemeanors were until they went to court. And at this point, I still don't know what the misdemeanors were. But anyway, he was like standing next to the guy from the New York Times, reporting what was happening on January 6th. Not parading, not doing anything other than being a reporter. He's the guy that DOJ now says, broke the law, and they're gonna go ahead and prosecute him, but none of the other journalists. Kind of two-tiered, in my opinion. Let's see. In other news, Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida has signed HB 117. This is a state bill to release Epstein documents. Yeah, it's good. It's good to have the transparency. I don't think anything's going to come of it, and I think it's just another method of distracting the people from all of the other stuff that is just burning down in our country. A Representative Debbie Lasko, Republican in Arizona, announced new legislation on Friday that would declare the situation at the border an invasion, a move that would add legal heft to Texas's defense of its strict enforcement laws. We've run out of words to express the magnitude of the crisis at our border, the Arizona Republican said. The only word that aptly describes the situation on the ground is an invasion, which is happening every day at our southern border and negatively affecting communities across our nation. Her bill highlights the unprecedented numbers of illegal immigrants nabbed across the southern border, including a 400% increase in terrorism suspects detected by the Border Patrol, as well as a huge increase in the flow of fentanyl. Illegal immigrant crossing exceeded 988,000 illegal immigrants in January, or since January of this year. Over 24,000 Chinese nationals, mostly military-age males, have been apprehended near the border of California. Roughly 30% of all of that area's illegal entries into the country. Kind of crazy. That, my friends, was kind of that was it. That was pretty much the gist of the net yesterday. And I owed it to you. I wanted to give you the information. Sorry I don't have everybody else here. And at least the audio on this video should be a lot better than it was yesterday. Anyway, guys, I'm Bob, K6UDA. That was the topic from the Southern Idaho Preparedness Net for Saturday, March 2nd, 2024.